Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the August 2023 digest, where I'm finally back in Australia. I've had my surgery, I've recovered, and I consumed a total of four things, I think, in this entire month of August, even though I had two plane trips. I had plenty of time to watch things, but I completely chose not to. I have a long list of stuff I need to watch. I don't think I touched any of it, and I just watched a bunch of random movies, so here we are in one YouTube video, so crazy. I guess that's it for the intro. So the first thing, I finally watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So this is if you somehow haven't heard of this is a movie that is 2 hours and 29 minutes long, and I watched it on the 4th of August. So let me think. So I have a big history with the Guardians of the Galaxy. On one hand, I loved the first movie. I thought it was really great. A lot of world building, fun characters. I like the climax at the end where they resolve everything through dancing. Or I guess the subversion of him like dancing and being like distracting the villain and the villain being confused, which I guess if that happened these days, I'd be like, oh, that's really cringe and overdone. But back then it was really novel and unique and I liked it. I thought that was good. Then I watched the second one and it was like the worst movie I had ever seen in my life. And thinking back, I don't know why. Like, maybe if I rewatch it, I would like it more. I know everyone seems to really love that movie and probably like it more than the first one, but like, I guess the immediate thing that comes to mind is just I didn't find it funny, or I found the humor kind of cringy. But other than that, I don't remember what made me hate it so much. But I truly did hate it, and that put me off watching any more of Guardians of the Galaxy. So I didn't watch the Christmas special. I had no intention of watching this whatsoever. But I heard nothing but rave reviews for this amazing movie is what I kept getting told. And I got told from all these different people in my life, which was crazy, like from family to friends to people on the internet, crazy. So I decided to finally watch it when it came to Disney Plus, that is. I didn't go to the theater to watch this. But yeah, so overall, this was a 4 out of 5. This was really great. I enjoyed watching this. One of the best Marvel movies in this phase, I would say. And probably one of the most emotionally impactful ones in general. I thought this was a very well done movie. So yeah, let me see in my notes. So overall, this was pretty great. The only thing holding it back, so once again, the only thing that really holds this back from being, there's two things that hold this back from being a 5 out of 5. One is just the frequent cringe comedy, where it holds on the jokes for too long. The jokes themselves aren't funny. It's kind of like a modern kind of comedy where it's like being self-referential and you know all the memes about like the MCU movies having this cringe kind of humor. I think it all applies here, and it just brings the movie down a peg. The other element that I think brings this down from a 5 out of 5 to a 4 out of 5 is just that I don't have any interest in really watching this, besides watching particular scenes that I like. The part where they're on that organic planet, I thought that was pretty slow, and I just dread having to go through, and it lasted quite a long time, and I dread having to go through that again, I guess. So for reasons like that, I think it falls down to a 4 out of 5. But yeah, let me just go into my notes now. So man, the opening scene, the opening scene in this movie was like, as soon as you see it, you know that it's going to be different from all the other Marvel movies. You know it's going to be an awesome movie because it's beautifully directed. You see this really sad animal thing that's kind of scared, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to get emotionally invested in this movie. I can't believe it. And it's just so well directed, like the ominous hand coming in, you don't know where the hand's coming from, and it's like, oh, this is going to be a sad movie, isn't it? And yeah, I was immediately hooked from that first scene. I thought it was so good. Anyway, what did I actually say? I said the hand panning inside is really cool, and I truly feel terrible for this scared ferret, which is not a ferret, it's a raccoon, we found out. I don't know why I called it a ferret. Anyway, I said the powered guy, which I guess I know now is the high evolutionary, I think it was what it was called. I said it, not him, not that guy. The Adam Warlock, I think is what his name is. He reminds me of Homelander from The Boys, both in terms of appearance and I guess behavior early on, but I guess later on he's a bit of a goofy character by the end. But then I said I think is the Black Mirror guy from Bandersnatch, and I never looked this up, but I'm like 95% sure, so I'm not gonna look it up, but yep, crazy. Black Mirror at it again. Then I said no, because in the fight, I don't have so many, it's been a while since I watched this. I love the fight at the beginning, where Adam Warlock just comes in, fight starts, straight away, people are getting hurt, people are dying, crazy, can't believe it, over the top, love it. But then adult Groot gets his head chopped off, and I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna have a Baby Groot again, and I just have no interest in Baby Groot whatsoever. It's not funny. I don't find it that cute. It's just annoying. But thank God we didn't. We got to stick with the adult Groot, and even got to grow at the end, and it was like a giant Groot. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Anyway, yeah. Oh, here we go. Commenting on the action scene. This action scene at the beginning is awesome. Comes out of nowhere. Everyone gets a turn. It's brutal, fast paced. Opens questions about who this guy is. It's awesome, which I agree. Then, oh my God, basically, anything to do with the animals in this movie, I thought it was very effective. Like, I liked it so much, particularly when Rocket is, well, I guess we don't know his name at that point, but Rocket is saying his first word, and it's like, he says hurts, and it's like, that's all you need to hear to just get emotionally involved so much. And just the way he says it with his, like, it's not quite the Rocket voice, and it's like a really childish kind of voice, and it's like, oh my God, I'm emotionally invested immediately. And then when you see his friends, I don't remember any of their names. Maybe Lila, maybe that was the one he kisses at the end. I don't know. The rabbit thing, the limbless rabbit that's like being carried around by these spikes. I think that's my favorite, not character in this movie, but maybe my favorite character design or character concept or something. It's just so like the contrast of him or her being the most innocent of the animals. Like even of those 4 innocent animals, it's the most innocent one. Like with the most childlike voice and not really being aware of what's going on. But being contrasted by looking the most deformed and terrifying and like horror-like with its limbs coming out and it basically being a dead rabbit being hoisted around by these metal legs. I thought that was great. And yeah, very macabre is what I put in my notes here. Yeah. Then I said, let's not read that one out. About the gold lady, what a beautiful lady she is. The high evolutionary looks cool. We'll talk about the high evolutionary. Oh, and here we go. Okay, my overall thoughts on the high evolutionary. I thought he was one of, if not the best villain in the MCU. Because firstly, he's really cool. You know, he has his cool powers. He's very high up. I love people who are high up, watching them in movies in powerful positions. It's always fun. But he's also very, what's the word? He's egotistical, of course, but he's also, he doesn't have a lot of self-confidence is the way he comes across. And I think that is, and he comes across as pathetic, I guess, and elitist, which is what my next note here, which is about he has this very small scene where he's basically mentoring Rocket, and I think it's it might be when he's showing off the evolution machine to evolutionize the turtle or whatever, and he corrects Rocket basically says can't, like in an American accent, and then he corrects him to say can't. It's like can't, like, oh, we're gonna talk in British accents here, and it's like a cool piece of tiny characterization for this villain where it says that he sees a British accent as the proper or best accent for like a perfect society, like a really posh kind of perfect society, I guess. And he might not even have a British accent naturally. He kind of phrases it like maybe he learned that accent to sound more proper, and it kind of paints him as like a fanboy or like a pathetic, like elitist kind of character, where his powerful facade, which is what I liked about him, might just be a complete act that he's putting on, because he doesn't feel like he truly is powerful innately. And it's kind of like everything he does is to project an image of power and superiority and confidence that he doesn't have, which is I really like. And then I just said it kind of reminds me of the Griffith toxic masculinity thing that Griffith has going on, which is what makes Griffith like one of my favorite characters in all the fiction that I really like. And the high evolutionary stands out for that regard too. What else is there? Alternatively, it could just be the alternative is that this doesn't matter. It's just a boring take that the high evolutionary thinks that he has a British accent and he just thinks his accent is the best and is trying to get Rocket to adopt it or whatever. That's like another reading, but that's a boring reading. All right. We don't like boring readings. Then I have my first complaint. Oof. I hate the banter and comedy so much. Now I remember why I didn't like the second movie so much. And I have an example, spending a whole scene where they're making fun of how Quill talks with Gamora about wanting her back is not a private channel. Yeah, it's like stuff like that where it's like, immediately you understand what the joke is. The joke is he was saying stuff in public when he thought it was private, and they just drag it out for like 30 seconds with a joke, and all the characters have to get their like opinion in on this scene on like what just happened, and it's like, God, can we just like move on to something that's like better? Anyway, that happens a lot in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies that for some reason I feel like didn't happen in the first one, but maybe it's just I was younger when I watched it. Like it was a long time ago. It was almost 10 years ago, I guess. And maybe the world, like the media landscape at the time was different enough where that type of humor was better, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. Why? I don't know what this note is at all. I said it has that sweet Fuselex core. Oh, it's the this was a great joke actually. Whereas you got they're at the organic planet and you got the like workers, the workers are basically bantering and the guy's like, yeah, it's got that Fuselex core, and the other employee, like his dumb one, is like, yeah, and the other guy's like, oh really? I just made that up, and he's like, oh yeah, I thought you said something else, and it's like just the playing off of that joke. The way, like, basically, there's multiple levels there, right? So you've got the first element of the joke where it's like the guy says, oh, that Fuselex core, and it's like basically some science fiction thing, and you got these two guys bantering, and the joke is we're watching this movie where it's meant that the first layer of the joke is coming across like I'm schizo ranting right now, but I swear, this is a good joke. The first layer of the joke is that you've got we are humans, all right, watching this Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and in our human lives, we see coworkers discuss things in the hallway, and now we're seeing people in this science fiction setting discussing things in a hallway, and that's the humor. It's right, they're discussing trivial, random things in the hallway. The second level of this joke is that the guy makes it up, and the guy falls for it, where it's like, oh, that Fuselex core, and the other guy's like, yeah, and then the other guy's like, oh, I just made it up. Great. Funny joke, right? Then the final layer of the joke, which is what makes it amazing, is that the other guy goes along with it and commits to it and is like, oh yeah, I thought you meant something else. Great, amazing. I hope I explained that well and you're laughing along and you really loved that joke as much as I did. Yeah, and then the other joke I hate explaining you, but the other joke I really liked was the scene afterwards where you've got Star-Lord talking about how Drax is like the slow uncle nephew guy through nepotism. I think. And then you got the other guy on the other side, the enemy, talking about how, yeah, I have one of those as well. And I'm like, ha ha ha, very funny. There are a few good jokes in this movie. Anyway, then I have a note about, is this corporation or the High Evolutionary even evil? They're trying to create a utopian society. And I said, I suppose the bad aspect is that he will eventually want to kill everything that isn't perfection. For example, rockets, animal friends. And look at that. I'm a genius. That's exactly what happened. Then I said, I wonder if Tony built Nova's suit, because Nova has like this new suit, or I guess a new part of her ability or body, which she can like morph and stuff. But nope, turns out it's Rocket. I think it would have been, I guess it works in the movie because Rocket is so important, and she talks about how, oh, my friend made me this or something. But it would have been cooler if it was like a carryover of Tony and Nebula when they spent time. Why did I say Nova? Is that even a name? I don't know. No, Nebula, when they spend time at the end, or beginning of Endgame, when they're in the ship floating away. I thought that was really cool. Anyway, the rabbit calling itself Floor because it's lying on the floor. Another cute element of why this rabbit character is the best part of this movie. The scene where the High Evolutionary is going mad because his creation figures out something that he never could is amazing. It shows his insecurity. Once again, he's a very insecure character trying to project an appearance of superiority and confidence when he doesn't have it. And just the pure acting. Like, one thing to say is that there's been a few villains. There's really only been 3 villains that I find interesting. There's been Thanos, which is quite a subdued performance where he doesn't really project his voice or anything. He doesn't act crazy. He kind of just like talks calmly and with a deep voice, I guess. Then you've got Kang, which I mainly remember from Loki, but he's also in Ant-Man and the Wasp and Ant-Man 3 and gives a really good performance there, where he's really subtle and quiet and commands attention through his subtlety, which I think he's probably the best performance in the MCU to date. Now we also have another one that I really like, which is the Grand Evolutionary going over the top and yelling and screaming and being really passionate and kind of childlike in his tantrums and stuff. I thought that was really well acted. Whoever this actor is for the High Evolutionary, I thought was really good. And I'm really, I'm sad we're not going to see him again, but if we could get some other performance from that actor, I thought it would be really cool in these movies. Anyway, the scene where the High Evolutionary comes in and kills Rocket's friends and then mocks his scream. Yeah, when Rocket basically kills him, Rocket screams, and then the High Evolutionary is like, ah, ah, and he like keeps doing that. I'm like, oh my god, this is a great acting, great character. I love it so much. What a great movie. I said, I really like the High Evolutionary as a character. I wonder what's wrong with him. What is he being treated for? Which I guess we find out eventually. His face was cut off by Rocket. Fair enough. Another note, Gamora, beautiful woman, of course. You figure the High Evolutionary would show more interest in Groot. Yeah, that was an interesting thing where Groot is like a very unique species. He's incredibly strong. He's very adaptable. He can change his body. You figure that the High Evolutionary, somebody wants to build a perfect society of these beings who are like perfect and evolved and all that. I feel like he probably would show more interest in Groot, but I don't think he ever even points him out as like something interesting whatsoever. I don't even know if he mentions or talks to him at all. But yeah, maybe because he can't talk, he thinks he's like a dumb, like low evolutionary being or something. I don't know. The High Evolutionary destroying the planets to rebuild is exactly the kind of stuff I want to see from Kang in Ant-Man. Yeah, exactly. We never see Kang do anything evil in Ant-Man. It's all off-screen. We're just meant to trust that he's a bad person because Hope's mum said that he's a bad person. Yeah, I wish we kind of saw this stuff from Kang, and it was really cool to see it here. Man, none of this movie got to me until the Guardians ship find out that... Yeah, okay. I got emotionally invested in this movie, but I almost teared up at like 2 points. I don't know if I'll remember the second one, but I know there were 2 points, and one of them was when they find out that Rocket's alive, and it's not, none of the crew really matters except for Nebula, where Nebula, who has been putting on this like strong act, and she never like shows her emotions or anything, she has like a very brief moment where she almost starts crying, and that got to me for some reason. And I can't really explain why or anything. It just comes out. Maybe it's a combination of the music and the acting and the fact that it's a character who doesn't usually cry is crying here. I don't know. That worked very well. Then, really another great scene in this movie, which is Drax making the monkey noises. Oh, I remembered the other part that almost gets to me. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Yeah, monkey noise is great. Kind of messy final act. This fight with Nowhere and the evolutionary ship is kind of weird and boring. I still stand by that probably. And then I said, what an amazing final fight with the High Evolutionary. And I have 3 subpoints, which I'm not sure what they are. So I said, 1, the High Evolutionary has been set up so well to be an imperfect genius. He is childish, egotistical, and insecure. Every now and then when his ego fails him, where his ego fails him where his reason would not, his downfall felt very natural. Yeah, I would stick by that. It's a very natural downfall. And second is when Rocket uses his gravity roots to take him out, because it's been set up earlier on, and it's like Rocket is using the intellect that the evolutionary gave him to defeat him in the end. I thought that was really cool. And then the actual fight itself is really sick, where it starts off with Rocket like doing the initial attack, like showing his gravity boots and hitting him, and then all the other Guardians like come and get a hit, and then Gamora finishes him off very quickly. And it was a nice, quick, really cool fight, is what I would say. Yeah, then the second time I almost teared up was another Nebula thing, which is when she tells Drax that he's like born to be a dad or something. And I'm like, oh, that like ties in perfectly with like his arc throughout or not arc, but like his character in all these movies, and Nebula's the one saying it, and it's like, oh my god. Another amazing scene. And then perhaps the greatest scene in this movie, which is what I've got. I don't know, you probably can't see my mouse, but this screen here, scene here, where it's basically all the Guardians living happily ever after, and particularly the one of Gamora here really got to me as well. So let me see. I said, what an ending scene. Everyone is happy. You've got Drax and Mantis looking at each other. You've got Rocket and Groot dancing. You've got Nebula smiling. You've got Gamora being hugged and happy with her Ravengers, or whatever they're called. You've got all the happy kids. You've got Pete's grandpa crying and hugging him immediately, like immediately recognizing and hugging him. And I said, what a perfect final scene for the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Please never make another one again. So yeah, this is the perfect way to end these movies, and I thought it was really good. And I guess the final thing I want to talk about is I'm sure this has to have been talked to death, but I haven't actually looked up any reviews of this. I've just heard what my friends have said about it. But I really like how Gamora didn't end up getting with Star-Lord in the end. It's just really interesting that she ends up finding joy in having her family, like her adopted family here, with all of these like misfits and stuff. And it's it kind of portrays the movie and the trilogy as showing that, like, how can I say this? It frames the entire trilogy, or even you could just say this movie, as having a message of joy can be found in the people around you, and how family can be created by people who aren't your family or whatever. Like, she doesn't have to be in love with Star-Lord and have a happy family and live forever with him to be happy. She can find happiness in the people around her, and this pseudo-adopted family of misfits all coming together. I thought that really worked well, and it works well in the context of the Guardians of the Galaxy, who are this family that come together and find happiness through that. So yeah, overall, a great movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Tone down the humor, and it would have been amazing. But it's still, you know what, it still is amazing for what it is. But next up, Godzilla 2014. So this is a movie. It's 2 hours and 3 minutes long, and I watched it on the 14th of August. So I watched this while I was like 35,000 feet in the air on a Delta airline over the Pacific Ocean, whatever ocean there is between Australia and the LAX, I guess. So let me talk about stuff I haven't got in my notes, which is that I remember when this trailer first came out in 2013 or 2014 or whatever, and it was like on the front page of Reddit, top of Reddit. I thought it was a really cool trailer. It had like all this cool like music and stuff, eerie music building up for Godzilla, and you don't quite see him until the end where you got these people dropping down. And I remembered all that like it was yesterday that I watched it. But I never ended up watching the movie. I was always interested in it. But firstly, I don't think my friends went to watch it in the cinemas, so I didn't really watch movies by myself back then. And I remember when it got to the point where I could like just watch it online for free, or not free, but whatever, on a streaming service or anything. I'd already read reviews, and a lot of the reviews were talking about how this isn't a Godzilla movie. It's more about the humans than Godzilla, and it's a letdown. He's only there for like 10 minutes on screen or something, and everyone was saying this was a disappointment, and yeah. So that was the impression I had going into this, or I guess what I was expecting this movie to be. But overall, this was a great movie, 4 out of 5. I surprisingly very enjoyed this, and I think the fact that Godzilla isn't in it much at all really makes his scene stand out in comparison to the next Godzilla movie we'll be talking about at the end of this digest, which completely failed in that regard, and shows way too much of Godzilla and all the monsters that just makes it a very bad movie. This one I thought was very good. And just I believe I should have written this down, but I believe it's directed by Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One. I don't know which one came first, because I truly don't remember what year Rogue One came out. Oh no, I guess it would have been, Rogue One would have been later, because The Force Awakens was 2015. So I guess this came out first, and this probably sold the people on him as being a director for Rogue One. I don't know. Either way, great director, whoever did this. And for instance, when I go into my notes here, the intro sequence was really cool. How it's like a bunch of newspapers and TV broadcasts and all of this about the nuclear bombs being developed and being tested, and like this secret monster like island you're kind of seeing, and it's like you don't quite see Godzilla, but you know that Godzilla is like there, and a really cool opening scene, and just the nuclear blast going off and people all standing up, and it's like it looks like it's historical footage taken out from the archives or something, but I'm sure it's just made for this movie. But I thought it was really cool, and like just unique. Like a movie doesn't have to do that. You could just have the credits show in like the text that pops up when the characters are doing their things or whatever. But and I think they do that in the later Godzilla movie that's much less interesting than this. But this one, you can feel whoever directed this, their vision is very clear throughout this, where it's just unique and makes a bunch of interesting choices like this opening sequence. Anyway, I guess the other thing is I don't have many notes for this because I was on a plane and I didn't rewatch it or anything afterwards. But let's see. Another thing I knew about this movie, especially from the trailer, especially from the time frame it came out in 2014, right after Breaking Bad finished, is that Bryan Cranston is in this, who plays Walter White, of course, in Breaking Bad. So this was crazy, because this was like, you're seeing him as some other character, obviously the height of his career, where he's like just finished playing Walter White, and everyone's like, oh my god, the best show ever, it's winning all these awards, it's the most popular thing on TV at the time, and here he is in Godzilla, and it like adds an air of legitimacy to this like monster movie. You're having this crazy big actor, known for his serious role in like Breaking Bad now, playing this role. And what's funny is that he dies so early in this movie. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to be the main character, or like the main scientist guy or something, but it turns out his son is the scientist guy, and you get like a time skip. Crazy. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, cool move, story-wise. The sound effects are awesome, absolutely. The scale of the explosions, like they feel very big. Godzilla, every movement he makes, he's like raw. It's all fantastic stuff. The sound effects in this movie is awesome. Then I like skip the majority of this movie, and my next note is about how the scene on the bridge is cool. The movie captures scale very well. Now, there's two scenes I could be talking about here, and both I think equally apply to this note. The first one is like when you've got the kids on the bridge, like I don't know if it's the Golden Gate Bridge, but it was a bridge at least. And you've got the scale of like Godzilla coming, and all these jets like flying over and stuff, and the kids are like looking out at the bus. I thought the scale there was really cool. And the second scene is when you've got the two military guys who are trying to go get the bomb and I think set it off or disarm it. One of those, I don't actually remember. When they're lying down on the bridge trying to avoid being seen by the Mothra, I think it was called. Not Mothra, that was the next movie. Whatever these like these like alien things that aren't Godzilla are. Not even aliens, they're like monsters from this earth. Yeah, when they're just lying on that bridge, it's so like intense, and you see the scale of this giant head like floating around. Really cool. This movie, I'm lost for words. It is a masterpiece of scale in a similar way to how the first Cloverfield movie was, where that really felt the scale, but that was different because it was like a handheld kind of like found footage thing. This one is cinematic, but it also really captures the scale well, which again, the next movie really fails at doing. Anyway, the bridge scene. There's another really cool visual, which is when I don't know how, like, no one's probably seen this movie in 10 years, and I'm just describing these really niche scenes that look really cool, and I vaguely remember them, so I can't really describe them too well, but one I really liked was when you're in the city, and there's all these people evacuating, and one of the EMPs goes off for one of the this guy on screen, whatever his name is, the guy on the left, the male or the female, I got no idea. One of them can EMP things, and you get like this panning shot where the camera is like seeing all of these fighters, like what do you call them, like B-2 bombers, or like these basically military jets falling out of the sky and hitting buildings, and you're seeing the scale of it from like just a person in the city, like what trying to evacuate. Is really cool directing, cool cinematography, everything like that. Or as I put it, spooky stuff. There you go. The constant like sonic booms of all these planes flying over the sky, I thought it was really cool. It's always cool in these types of movies, I guess, like military disaster movies. It's always a cool visual. I always enjoy it. The scene, here we go. The scene where the kids on the bus see the tanks going on the bridge. Really cool. There's so many cool visuals in the movie. The shot of all the jets flying on the sky in the empty city. Wait, jets. Oh, the jets falling out of the sky. So here we got two notes on the same thing. Crazy. The empathy moment where this was really interesting. So you kind of, I don't know if it's like a subversion or like what's going on, but it's really cool to see when you've got these two, basically the goal of this movie, or the goal of the two enemies in this movie, these two monsters which are on separate parts of the earth. They try and get together. And the interesting thing is when they get together, they don't like fight. They don't like try and destroy things together. They kiss each other. And it's like, that's really interesting. Like these two know each other from before, and they're just like kissing, and and then it gets revealed that they're actually having children together. And it's like, like, are we the bad guys trying to kill these things that are just trying to live, I guess, and reproduce? Like it was kind of a plot, not a plot twist, I guess, but it kind of like a plot twist where it's like reframing the intentions of the villains of the movie to be more interesting and subtle than I expected initially. Like you also get a scene, like they kiss, and then they also get the warhead, and they put it on the sack of where all the babies are, and it's like, I feel kind of bad. Like we're going to try and kill these things that just want to have their kids. Humanizing moment of the villains that are anything but human. Really cool. Then I said, it's cool seeing a military in a movie that is actively trying to do the right thing for the people. So usually in all of these movies, you'll have at least one commander who is like incompetent or not listening, or is just trying to be very fascist, or like it's just like a bad commander basically. In this movie, they're all very competent. They're all seemingly trying to do the right thing. And it's just really refreshing, I guess. There's no like bad guy in the military. There's no bad human really here. Every human is trying their best, and I thought it was really cool. And that's my final note, except for the last one that says, King of the Monsters, Savior of our City, which is, I think, what they refer to as Godzilla at the end. Really sick. Like in a news broadcast, I think is what they call him. Sick. Cool way to end the movie. I thought this was a really great movie. Well directed. Well made. 4 out of 5. Oh, excuse me. Next up, we have... I should have looked up how to pronounce this, but Midsommar is what I would say, but I think I've also heard it said Midsummer. Maybe it's a translation thing, I don't know. But this is a movie. It's 2 hours and 28 minutes long, and I started it on a plane over the ocean between Australia and America on the 14th of August, but I didn't get to finish it. I even watched some of it at the airport when I was like trying to go through customs to get back out. Or not customs, but whatever, to get back out. And then I finished it a few days later on my computer at home on my nice 4K monitor on Netflix on the 17th of August. So I guess before I watched this, I I don't think I haven't looked up any reviews or anything, but I knew this was an A24 movie, and I had the vague idea that it's a movie about a cult that kills themselves. Throughout this entire movie, I thought, okay, at the end, everyone's going to kill themselves. So I did have some idea that this was like a, not horror, but like a weird, like disturbing kind of movie. So yeah, I don't think that would have ruined it at all, because I guess you get the reveal that it's going to be a very disturbing movie in the first like 5 minutes when the sister kills herself with the gas mask and everything. But that was just something I knew going in. Or I guess I was wrong about it because they don't kill themselves, but I knew that it was a bit of a disturbing movie. Anyway, but yeah, overall, this was a pretty bad movie, I would say, like legitimately bad. I didn't enjoy watching this. 2 out of 5, one of the worst I've seen this year. Which is surprising because I almost always enjoy like small budget indie A24 films like this, but I thought it was incredibly slow, incredibly maybe pretentious is the right word, where there's really cool shots and camera movements and cinematography in this movie, but it's all to convey pretty boring ideas, I guess, or something like that. Like there's no real, I mean, I'm sure there is some thesis to this movie, but when I'm watching it, it kind of just feels like I'm watching a cult with no purpose. And some of the shots kind of make that obvious, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of boring. I don't know. Not my type of movie. So let me actually go through my notes now. Oh God. All right. So my first note, I'm having a Kyle entertainment moment where basically at the beginning of this movie, the spoilers, I guess all of these media digest things are spoiled, but the main girl's, I don't remember any names from this movie, but the main girl's sister is revealed to have killed herself, as well as her parents. And the main girl, the main character in this movie, is absolutely distraught by this. She's wailing and crying, and for hours and hours she's just high-pitched, like, wailing on the top of her lungs. Like, even when her boyfriend is, like, holding her and hugging her, she just does it for non-stop. And I'm just thinking, like, really? Like, I get it's bad, like, your family died or whatever, but are you really going to wail for hours on end about this? And I guess to me, I'm like, I can imagine Kyle Entertainment complaining about this sometimes, like when it comes to bullying and stuff like that. I don't know, where he's like, really? Like, is this really a thing where people would do this? I don't know. Anyway. And I said, like, okay, it bothered me then, but I guess later on you find out that it's a setup for the scene at the end of the movie where she also starts wailing uncontrollably when she sees her boyfriend having sex with the other woman in the cult. And this time, like the first time she was alone and her boyfriend was like hugging, I guess she wasn't alone, but she was relatively alone with her boyfriend who wanted to cheat on her, is like hugging her. But at the end of the movie, she's wailing and you've got all of these cult members, like all the women also wailing with her at the same time. You're like 10 women around her all wailing. So in that regard, I guess retroactively, I can see why they put that in the beginning of the movie. But when I was first watching through, it was jarring and kind of cringy where I'm like, this is like, why would this girl do this? Anyway, minor thing. I did like the main guy who is actually covered in this picture, but is right here, if you can see my cursor. I liked this friend group. It felt kind of different from what you see from most movies where you've got friend groups. Like, they were kind of nerdy, they were kind of reserved, they weren't too like charismatic or anything. And I guess it's revealed that they are not revealed, but you eventually find out that they're PhD students. So it's like they're just researchers, which I'm like, oh, I'm a PhD student, kind of cool. Representation in media, great. But yeah, I like them quite a bit. And again, this has the guy from Black Mirror in it again. Crazy. That was not intentional whatsoever. I was surprised to see him here. The Adam Warlock. I am pretty sure that's him. It'd be funny if it wasn't him. But yeah, he was in this. I think. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. I said this movie feels too artsy for how goofy it is, and I think I stand by that. And another thing is the main Swedish guy, who is the person that from the friend group that invites them to this Midsommar cult. He reminds me of the main guy from the Corridor Crew. Like, I can't remember what his name is, but like, the main guy, and he's the guy who has the best insights, the most charismatic when they're sitting on the couch. He reminds me of him in terms of looks. I'm like fairly confident that guy has to be Swedish or something because they look like almost identical to me. Anyway, I said, Jesus Christ, it must be so awfully boring living in this community. All they do is chant and slowly dance all day. Yeah, I don't even know if that's intentional, like what the movie is trying to convey to me or not. Because on one hand, I could see a lot of people watching this movie and being like, oh my God, what a perfect life. All they get to do is they just sit in nature all day, they dance, they frolic, they talk to each other. What an amazing life. And to me, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this looks like the most boring life I could ever imagine. And I don't know if the movie is like intending to give me like the positive impression of this or the negative impression. I don't know. Anyway. I said, this is generally a very boring movie, and I still stand by that. Then they have a somewhat interesting scene, which is when they're arguing about their thesis. And maybe it's only, I find it interesting because I'm doing a thesis, and I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about their thesis. Isn't that crazy? But I think it's kind of interesting because I don't know who's in the right in this situation, where you've got two friends. One of them has already chosen his thesis topic, and it's going to be on this town, or not town, I guess, whatever you call this like retreat, Midsommar like event. And then you've got the other guy coming in and thinking, I also want to do my thesis on this place. Do you want to share with me? And it's a complicated scenario because a thesis has to be an original body of work, basically. And if two people are doing the same thing, then you need to make sure they're different enough, or both significant enough in their own right, that they can both be accepted. So having two people do it makes it harder for the original person. But at the same time, if someone wants to do their thesis on something, then like genuinely wants to do it, then the other guy has no right to really say that I don't want you to do this because I'm also doing it on this topic. Yes, it was a very minor, probably not really you're meant to see it this way, but I thought it was an interesting conflict. So I don't know, maybe it's only because I'm doing a PhD. Lamau, the guy breaking down crying because the American pissed on his ancestral tree. Yeah, true. That was a funny scene. I like that. I guess the question raised by this movie is to what extent cultural differences should be acceptable. So as you go on this movie, basically, what you find out is that the culture of this cult is more and more unorthodox, I guess is what you would say. Like initially you're going here, you find out that they're basically living in this nature-like setting. Already that's a bit unorthodox. Then you find out that they have this ritual where the older people of their society, when they get old enough, reach a certain age, they jump off a cliff and kill themselves in front of everyone. And it's like, okay, cultural difference. This is getting a bit weird. However, you can kind of justify it. They're old. They want to take control of their lives. They want to die when they want to die. And it's seen as a beautiful thing in this culture. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of weird. But, cultural differences, got to accept it. Then you get to the next point in the cultural difference spectrum here, where you find out that they're creating these oracles that produce like sacred texts by like drawing these things. And you find out that they intentionally create these oracles, which are like disabled, deformed like people, by inbreeding. And it's like, okay, this is almost certainly a step too far, where you're creating these disabled people who are living terrible lives, purely for the sake of your culture here. And it's like, okay, now I think we've gone a bit too far, but you know what? Maybe there's a way to justify this. And then you just keep going further and further, and you find out they like sacrifice people ritualistically every Midsommar or something, and they get outsiders and insiders, and it's like, I feel like the movies is like, one way to read the movie is about to what extent should cultural differences be tolerated, I guess. And that's kind of what I took from this movie, which is the somewhat interesting thing that I could piece together from this movie. So yeah, take that what you will. I don't know if this is like a common reading. I have no idea. I don't know what people really get from this movie, because I know that there are quite a lot of people who really enjoy this movie. I just wonder what they like about it. Anyway. Then I just like a plot bro thing about like, if the Americans die here, which they do, then their families and supervisors who like sent them to the US, and the US government will probably want to know what happened to them and find them, right? So I wonder what happens after this movie. Do they like say they went missing, or like how does no one come to this cult to investigate them? I guess no idea. I guess even if they did, they'd probably just find some charred bodies, or not even charred bodies. They'd probably bury it, like get rid of the evidence somehow. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a lost cause. Then I said, I really like the black guy, the black friend guy. He's very respectful of the culture early on. But at the same time, he's really shocked when the bad things happen. Like when the guy suicides, like jumps off, and he is like shocked by it. And it's kind of like, he's a really interesting character. Like he's informed of the culture, and he's very observant, but at the same time, he is still shocked by the things he's seeing. So I thought it was really cool. And I said, I hope he survives. He certainly did not survive. Then I said, Jesus, what a disgusting guy this boyfriend is, throwing Josh under the bus. I have no idea what the context of this is. I think it's like something to do with the thesis or something. I don't know. If they are killing these people, which I guess they are, I wonder why they're doing it so secretively. They outnumber the Americans 50-1. They could just kill them in broad daylight all at the same time. And I guess the reason for this is that they're doing it as part of their tradition. It's like a sacred thing for them to like slowly draw out this process and eventually choose the people to be sacrificed or whatever. Yeah, interesting. Then I said there were a lot of drugs in this movie. Oh, that's another thing. I know that Destiny has seen this movie, and I think he talks about the drug scenes in this movie, so maybe I already knew about that going into it. But yeah, there are a lot of drug scenes, and when you get tables like in this image here, how do I point to it? This image here, there's when it's in motion, you see like things are warping and distorting, and yeah, it's at least somewhat of a novel, interesting visual that I've never seen before, even if it doesn't appeal to me that much. Then another big part of this movie is to do with the different ways of coping with loss. Yeah, so it's a very minor kind of thing, I guess, which is that the girl has lost her family. She feels like she's losing her boyfriend or whatever. And the way that they cope with it in the movie at the end is when she's finding joy, basically, in just the simple act of dancing around the pole with the other people. And it's like, is this a better way of coping with loss? Or is it better to go back to her old life where everyone is like cold and detached and distant and stuff? I don't know, somewhat interesting of a theme. Then I said, if I was in this movie and I knew that the cult was doing bad stuff and you really want to piss them off, you should quickly burn that ancestral tree that they got so pissed off about pissing on, you know? And then they would break apart into a civil war. I'm sure that would be really cool to see. So I definitely would have done that. And I said, the person, I guess the most disturbing scene in this movie, which is when you find out that, I don't remember which of the characters it was, but basically, one of them is alive, and they're strung up, opened up, their lungs are like visible, and they're just hanging and being forced to stay alive above like these chickens and stuff. And it's like, okay, that's really disturbing. It almost feels disturbing for the sake of being disturbing. Like, there's nothing I find too interesting about it. It's just shock value, I guess, which is valuable in its own right. Then I got confused because at the end of this movie, the girl wins the Midsommar thing. She becomes the summer queen or whatever they call it. And she has the choice to like choose. I think she had the choice of 2 people to like sacrifice or whatever. And one of them was her boyfriend and one of them was some other guy, I think. And I was confused because initially you see some guy in a wheelbarrow being like wheeled away. And I was like, oh my God, she chose her boyfriend. And he has like a flattened head for some reason. I was like, oh, what happened? But then it turns out, no, that's not the boyfriend. That's just some other guy. But I think she did end up choosing the boyfriend and the boyfriend just burned alive or something. I don't know. Confusing stuff. Then I said, I guess she's trapped here forever now. How would she cope with what happened here? Yeah, basically, the movie ends with her like smiling, I think it was, but the thing is that through the terrible things that have happened here and the fact that she chose to sacrifice someone at the end, I think, I don't even remember that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. The fact that she sacrificed someone in the end and has seen all these terrible things and done these terrible things, even if she wanted to go back, how could she? Like, how could she live with herself if she went back? And that's kind of the trapping of the cult, which is that once you've bought in, and there is no going back, even if you wanted to. So that was somewhat interesting. Then I said, basically, just plot-wise, I don't know why her sister killed herself and her parents, and like, was that tied into the cult? I guess what I got by the end of this movie is that it feels like the cult killed the sister and their parents to bring the girl here eventually. So I think that somehow ties in with this overall idea of this movie. I don't know. I think that's what happened. Someone can tell me if they've seen this movie. Do you think, like, did I miss something? Like, is the cult tied to the death of the parents, or is it just completely coincidental, unrelated things? I got no idea. Then I said, dear God, the music gets loud at the end. My most insightful commentary. I don't know. Then I said, I looked it up, and apparently this is a horror film. And I don't think there's a single scary scene in all of this. Like the most shocking scene is when the intestine, not the lungs are like popping out of the person and they're being kept alive. But I don't think that's particularly scary. Like I would not have classified this as a scary movie. Maybe a thriller, but not even. It's not really a thriller. Like a suspense movie, I guess, is probably what this would be, if anything. But yeah, that's Midsommar. 2 out of 5. One of the worst movies I've seen this year. But, you know, there's some redeeming qualities. But yeah. Now we have Godzilla, King of the Monsters. A movie which is 2 hours and 12 minutes long. And I watched it on the 17th of August. So this month I was very excited, basically. I enjoyed the first Godzilla, and I was like, you know what? I know there's more. I know there's a Kong Skull Island movie, and I know there's a Godzilla vs. Kong. And I was like, I'm excited for Godzilla vs. Kong. I know the Kong movie looked really interesting from the trailers I saw. I remember that being really cool, like directing-wise and like color palette-wise. It looked really cool. But I couldn't find either of those easily to watch. But Godzilla King of the Monsters was on Netflix. So I was like, you know what? Let's start with this. And boy, was that a bad decision, because this was a bad movie. This was 2 out of 5. It could have been a 1 out of 5, but I think it definitely has some redeeming qualities about it. And I decently enjoyed parts of this. My general critique is that, I guess I already talked about it in the Godzilla section of this video, but the 2014 Godzilla it feels like a very serious movie. It feels like a indie movie. It's a very interestingly directed, has really cool cinematography, and it feels like it has a strong creative vision of someone behind it. Now, this movie, Godzilla King of the Monsters, feels like a Marvel movie. It feels like, and a bad Marvel movie at that. It feels like it has a bunch of creative visions. It feels like it's trying to sell merchandise. It feels like it's trying to have fan service moments where you get all these like different random monsters being named, and it's like Mothra, and you're meant to like clap and cheer and be like, oh my god, it's Mothra. Can you believe they did it? They actually did it. Yeah, and it feels very generic and yeah, not particularly interesting at all. It's all like bland color palettes. Characters aren't as compelling as the original Godzilla movie. Yeah, it's just worse in every way, and just as a movie, it's not very interesting at all. And I don't have too many notes on this. So my first note is that I had no idea that this movie existed whatsoever. I knew there was the Kong, I knew there was the Godzilla vs. Kong, but I had no idea that there was a Godzilla King of the Monsters movie, like a sequel to Godzilla. I also still don't know why this movie existed. I don't think it had to exist. Anyway, I guess I haven't seen Godzilla vs. Kong. Maybe all the other monsters tie in somehow. I don't know. I said, yeah, basically, a few of these will probably just summarize what I just said. This movie feels a million times more generic than the first Godzilla, less interesting directing, more straightforward storyline with obvious villains and bad it even falls into the bad government officials thing, where it's like, you clearly have the right decision that you could make, but you choose to do the bad thing, and it's like, oh my god, here we go with that trope again. It's got more comedy, and the really cringe comedy. Yeah, it's just more generic and bad in every turn. Every decision they make in this movie is a bad decision. Anyway. Yeah, then we get this Monster Prime or something, Monster Zero, I don't know what they call it. Basically, it's a 3-headed Hydra dragon thing. And every now and then the heads will like interact with each other and accidentally bump into each other or something. And I know there was a meme going around a while ago where you've got these 3-headed, like 3 dragons basically, and 2 of them are like really serious and one of them is like really dumb. And I'd wonder if that was like a screenshot from this movie. Like I got no idea. Or maybe it's like inspired by this movie, or maybe it's just completely unrelated. Because obviously a 3-headed Hydra is like a thing in fiction. But it was strikingly reminded me of it when I saw this movie. Anyway, and the timeline, I guess, would add up of 2019. You know, maybe the movie came out then. Maybe the meme came out then. I don't know. Then I said this dragon, Monster Zero, which I was just talking about, comes across as incredibly weak because, oh god, it's just terrible. Like there's plot armor and stuff in this movie. I don't know. There's a scene basically where Monster Zero, the biggest, scariest monster, sees a car and someone's in the car basically. Like the main character, researcher, smart genius, language guy. I don't know. He's in the car and the monster can't even destroy the car. Like I think it like hits the car and the car survives. And I'm like, huh. So this is the strongest of the strongest monsters, stronger than even Godzilla. Apparently it's an alien from outer space, which is actually really cool. And it can't even destroy this single car. And I'm like, okay. So that's a bit of an issue. Oh, what is this? So there is a terrible scene in this movie, and I think I've quoted it here. Overpopulation, pollution, war, the mass extinction for humans, and humans are the cause. Is basically this woman gives a speech about how humans are destroying the planet and destroying their own society. It's kind of like a Devilman speech if you've seen Devilman. However, in this movie, they are certainly not aware that what they're saying is cringe. They truly, it comes across as like the writers of this movie truly do believe that humans are causing these things, and humans are they're going to be their own destruction. It's just so cringe and lame and boring about, like, God, I don't know. What did I write? It's a lame speech about how Titans exist to bring the human infection back to balance. I said, what a dumb motivation. Who would believe this for even a minute? Like, it's actually so unbelievable that you want to cure human society by introducing these monsters that will destroy human society. Like, it's so ridiculous. God, my nose is so itchy. I said, it's actually unbelievable that such a lame and cringe scene was added to a movie. It's insane how much worse, tropey, and generic this movie is compared to the first Godzilla. So yeah. Then I said, this movie feels like all those monster movies. Basically it feels like like I said before about the Mothra thing, it feels like every time a new monster is introduced, you get this scene showcasing them, and they get a name, and it's like the audience is like meant to be clapping at this point and be like, oh my God, it's him, can you see it? It's so, like, I hate it so much. Then Monster Zero, like I said, but Monster Zero being an alien is really cool. It's like one of those small world building things where it's like, oh my God, so monsters come from aliens? What is this? What is Godzilla? Is Godzilla an alien? Like, what's going on? Like, where did humanity come from? Did humanity get seeded by this monster? I don't know. It's just cool stuff. Like, imagine a monster movie in space. Now, that would be cool. Then they kill the Japanese guy, or at least I think it's Japanese because he says Godzilla or whatever, Godzilla. And he was the best character in all these movies, and they kill him off. Sad. Then... are they potentially blowing up? Another plot point in this movie is that Godzilla basically has this healing place that he goes to. It's like a radioactive place under the ocean. And he's really damaged, so he goes there to recover. Then the humans go, and they send a nuke there, and they're like, okay, we can set off this nuclear bomb so that Godzilla heals, like, really quickly. But in doing so, I'm fairly sure that the nuke would have destroyed Godzilla's healing place. And I feel like having a healing place, which he knows where it is and it's going to be there forever, is far more valuable than having a one-time nuke that'll heal him once. So they are sacrificing eternal healing and immortality for Godzilla for the sake of healing him once. And I was like, Jesus, that's really dumb. Feels like a terrible idea. Anyway, then I have two more notes. I said, the human part of this story is basically abysmally boring. I know that people complained about the human part in the first movie, about how, it's a human story rather than focusing on Godzilla, but really it is this movie that struggles with that because the humans are just so uninteresting and the family dynamic is so boring and generic and just terrible. And yeah, all those people who were criticizing the first movie, they should throw away that criticism for the first movie and throw it at this movie because goddamn was it terrible. Then what is this? The cool fake out? Yeah, there's one interesting shot in this movie, which is right at the end of the fight, where Godzilla basically is in his turbocharged up mode and he attacks the dragon, and then there's like smoke and you cut away or something, and then you cut back, because it feels like a very climactic scene, like this is the final fight, this is the end of the final fight, and Godzilla might actually win here. Then you cut away and you cut back, and you see the dragon moving, like, alive, like it's moving its head. And it's like, oh my God, that attack, the final attack from Godzilla did nothing. And then you get the reveal, like you zoom out a bit, and you see that it's actually Godzilla, I was going to say Godzilla for some reason, Godzilla, holding the monster's neck in its mouth, and it's actually killed it, and it's finally just doing the final blast to finish it off. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool subversion. I wasn't expecting that. I thought the movie was just bad, but no, it had a little bit of intelligence there, you know? Kind of cool. But that is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. 2 out of 5. Quite a bad movie. I do not recommend this one. So, now we have the 2023 ranking so far, excluding all the rewatches. So, Jesus. I don't think I moved anything around. We got Guardians of the Galaxy right under My Hero Season 6 and above The Crucible. We've got Godzilla in the 4 out of 5s toward the bottom, above Bones and All, and below Dead Man's Questions. And then we got our 2 terrible movies, Midsommar and Godzilla King of the Monsters, in the 2 out of 5, right at the end. I almost considered putting it below Minions, but I think these two had a few more redeeming qualities, I guess, and I enjoyed Like the problem with Minions was just how boring it was. There was nothing interesting there. These two at least had some interesting things that I could pull out of it. So yeah. But now we have one YouTube video, and then we're done for the shortest digest besides the first one, which I think was really short in January. So this was Why Do We Do This by Jarkey Bacon. 10 minutes long. Exactly 10 minutes long. Crazy. And this is basically the, it's like a semi-scripted unscripted video where he's outside, which is really cool, talking about these hot takes that people have in the fandom. And he like asked for them on Twitter, and now he's like talking about them here. So I don't have too much to say on the content of this video. I don't think it was interesting. I liked it. But I have like 2 real notes on this, but what else do I have? So I love the thumbnail. Firstly, it's really cool. Like the actual color of the glow matches the background. It feels really cool to see, like the colored character. Like I actually didn't check how many views this got again you know what? Let me check now, because I feel like a video like this, it should do well. Like it's a really cool thumbnail, really well presented and all that. Let's see, Jarkey Bacon. Well, let's see, at least 500 views. Yeah, 560. Okay, that's decent, I guess, for Bacon's recent videos, right? Wait, let's have a look. Oh no, his AMV got 700. Oh no, I guess it's pretty poorly performing for a Vinland video. Interesting. I don't know. I figured this would have done better because the thumbnail looks good. The presentation of the actual video itself is good. It's easy to understand. I don't know. So, I don't know. Vinland fandom, who knows what's going on with them. Anyway. Yeah, generally I like the production elements of this. It's really cool, well edited. I mean, I say that about every Jarkey Bacon video. The visual gags are great. There's like one I want to talk about later. I feel like I say this every time, but the Jarkey Bacon channel, like every video I've seen, which I actually haven't seen all of them, believe it or not, I will one day. It just feels like a really big channel. Like if you were to show me this video and a bunch of his other videos, especially his recent ones, and tell me this is a guy with like 2 million subscribers, I'd be like, yeah, I believe it, obviously. Like he probably has a whole team working on editing his videos and making them professional and all that. Yeah, it's just crazy. Like this video is in line with those, where it feels like this is just like a big time professional YouTuber who does this for a living, which is awesome. But yeah, with this particular type of video, like it's a semi-scripted, semi-unscripted video where he's talking and it's engaging and I like watching it. I feel like a video like this shouldn't be a infrequent thing. Like I don't know how to explain this. I guess when there's 2 types of videos in my mind. Or 2 types of analysis videos, I don't even know what to say. Like 2 types of Bacon videos. There's scripted videos, which have theses or something. And then there's semi-scripted videos like this, where it's like him talking about something he finds interesting. When I watch a scripted video, I find it stimulating to think about, and the video sticks with me for a long time. When I watch a video like this, I watch it, I thoroughly enjoy watching it, but I don't think about it again afterwards. When I've seen it and enjoyed it, I'm done with it. There wasn't too much to really think about, if you get what I mean. So the first type of video is really conducive to publishing infrequently, like Bacon does. He'll publish it when it's ready, he'll put it out, and it'll stick with you forever, like when you watch it. This type of video, I feel like should be and could be done frequently, like once every 2 weeks or something. Publish a video like this, and people will kind of stick to it. And I would love to see videos like this every 2 weeks, or something like that, like more frequently. You don't think about it too much afterwards, but you enjoy it and you look forward to the next one, kind of, and you know it's going to come soon. Yeah, I don't know. I just had some thought about that, which I thought I should share. Yeah, let's have a look. What else do I have? I also want to point out the greatest gag in this, which is he's holding up his laptop. He says, what did I say? He says, Vinland Saga got bad after the Farmandark. And he like looks to the side and he's like, duh. And I'm like, oh my God, what a great gag. I actually laughed at that. And it's very rare that I actually laugh at like a YouTube video, I don't know if that's like a reference to something. Maybe he's like taking that from something else. I don't know, but it was really funny. So well done, Bacon. And then another minor thing, which is that I saw Kyle Entertainment react to this video, and I remembered that gag about him like doing the looking sideways thing, and I was like, oh, I can't wait till Kyle Entertainment gets to that part. He's gonna laugh at that. And then Kyle didn't laugh at all, and I was like, huh, okay, fair enough. But that was just a funny reaction kind of moment thing there. Then in terms of content, one minor thing I found interesting was that when he went over the survey of like Japanese, what people in Japan basically think are the best manga of all time, and Demon Slayer was number 2, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like that must be incredibly popular over there. Like, yeah, just crazy. I can't believe that was number 2 of all the things. But yeah, what else? I only have one more note for this, which is that I always point this out every time it happens, and I was briefly mentioned in this video, is basically what I'm pointing out here. For like 2 milliseconds, he put my name there, and he put text on screen basically telling me to absolutely not mention the fact that the audio cuts out in this, and he has to use his bad audio at the end. And here I am mentioning it, because just purely to say that it is a testament to how good the quality of the actual first part of the video is, because when it drops, it's like, it feels much less like high production value. I don't know what to say. Like, it feels like a small YouTuber when you get to the end. So it's like the small differences, like having a better setup for your mic and I don't know, doing all these edits and stuff. It really contributes to make the video feel high quality than maybe in reality it is. Like if you look at the actual production, it's just one man standing outside recording things on his own. But it just feels so much grander because the small things, like, I don't know if it's a small thing, but like just the effort put in to have a microphone and set it up, and I don't know, it's cool. Jarkey Bacon, love his videos. Go watch him. I guess I say that every time, especially if you love Vinland Saga, okay? And maybe Mushoku Tensei one day, you know, that'd be really cool. But with that, this is the shortest digest to date. So I have a current list of suggestions, which I've been really bad with, but don't worry, one day I'll get here. You know, I've been busy with surgery, you know, I probably should have watched stuff in my recovery, but I didn't. Anyway, so there's Norco, which I've started, which I'll finish very soon, hopefully. Firewatch, there's The Garden of Sinners, Top Boy, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Heavenly Delusion, which I'm very excited for. It's an anime I've been looking forward to. Bloom Into You, Spirit Circle, Peaky Blinders, Dave, and Belleville Rendezvous. So if there's anything missing here, because this is accumulated over like 3 or 4 months now, please let me know in the comments. Or also suggest new stuff if you want. Movies, anime, TV shows, games, books, YouTube videos, whatever. I used to say here that if you meet these criteria, I'll almost certainly watch it. But clearly I've been really bad with this, so I said more likely to consume. Yeah, so if it's an anime, if it's 12 episodes or less, if it's a movie, then if it isn't a comedy, if it's a TV show, then 6 episodes or less, or if it's a game, then around 6 hours to finish. Yeah, and with that, that's the end of this digest with my new setup. I forgot to mention it, but yeah, I don't know if this is good or not. If you somehow got to the end of this, then let me know if you prefer this or the old thing with the good old full screen slideshow with my tiny little picture in the end. I kind of figured that most people, like, I know when I rewatch these, I don't really look at the static screen, which just shows the score. I kind of look at me in the corner. I was like, maybe I'll make myself bigger. So yeah, thanks.